Hey guys, I'm really excited to be here today. This is actually my first Facebook Live by myself on my page. The last one I did was with Nat Kringudis when we met for the first time in August at a conference for online business entrepreneurs. So I'm super excited to be here today. We're going to be talking about a whole bunch of things. I got to pull up my list because there's a lot to get through. So the first thing is the top ovulation disruptors. I really want to go into that because I feel like we sort of live life and don't realize all of these things that could potentially impact us. And they seem benign, but they're actually not. So we're going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about my favorite supplements. I have 4 that I really love for maintaining our hormonal health and just maintaining our general health and fertility. I'm going to talk about vitex as well. I get a lot of questions about vitex, and I wrote a blog post about it, and I'm going to just share some of the things that I mentioned in the blog post as well as my own experience using it. And I'm also going to talk about about 2 different fertility tracking pieces of technology that I use now, the Daisy as well as the Wink. So I'll be getting into that as well because I think everyone wants to know more about that. So let's see. Oh, and I'm going to share a health resource that it's a special deal that's going on over the next couple of days that I would love for everyone to get in on. I've been loving all the resources and the e-courses and e-books that I've gotten out of it. So I will talk about that. And of course, I'll be answering all your questions live. So let's jump in. Oh, also happy fall equinox for everyone in the Northern Hemisphere. And then happy spring equinox for everyone in the South, all my Australian friends. All right, so let's jump into the top ovulation disruptors because I think that is one of the biggest things that really impacts our menstrual cycle, our reproductive health, our fertility, all of these different things. And so I wanted to start by, first of all, there are a lot of surprising ones, and when I wrote about them, people were like, wait, what? So the first one is melatonin. And so melatonin is that hormone that's released by your body, and it's the hormone that basically regulates your circadian rhythm, so your sleep-wake cycle. And so if you have too little or too much melatonin in your body, that can cause sleep issues, inability to stay asleep or fall asleep properly. You wake up in the middle of the night, all different kinds of things. And melatonin is super popular now. A lot of people use melatonin pills or sprays, and don't get me wrong, I have definitely used my fair share of melatonin when I'm stressed and I can't sleep. Like, that's my go-to in a lot of cases. So I get why people use it. The problem is that too much or too little melatonin can actually cause your menstrual cycle to go a little crazy. So it ultimately can affect ovulation and then affect your fertility. And so like the research I've done basically shows that large amounts of melatonin can actually delay or stop ovulation. And so those large amounts tend to come in a melatonin spray or a capsule or something like that if you take too much. Because at the end of the day, our body has a very precise, timed process of releasing hormones, and so if you go spraying a whole bunch under your tongue or taking a bunch of capsules, you have no idea how much your body actually would have made, and so it can cause a disruption, if that makes sense. So anyway, yeah, so that's what I wanted to say about like too much and taking it, because dosages can be really kind of hard to understand. And then on the flip side of that, low melatonin also causes problems for women as well, like lack of ovulation and infertility, and even chronic pelvic pain and endometriosis, which I thought was really fascinating when I did my research. I'm a big fan of making sure that you're producing your hormones, your endogenous hormones, rather than taking them via pill or slathering them on in some kind of hormone cream like progesterone cream. So that should always be the first line of defense, to make sure that you're producing hormones, and then figure out if you're not, why that is, or if you're not producing enough, like why that is, and then go from there. So when it comes to melatonin, I say have caution with taking it as a spray or as a capsule, just because again, you could be taking way more than your body actually normally produces, and this could cause problems over time. The second thing is to think about what your light at night looks like. Is your bedroom dark? Are there lights on the DVD player or the DVR or any other little electronics in your room? What's going on with the alarm clock, your phone? Are you staring at your phone screen at night? All of these things are going to cause major issues with your body producing melatonin, because your body thinks that it's light and it doesn't need to produce melatonin, so it'll shut it down. So think about those things. Also think about light blocking shades or curtains. I recommend putting tape over any kind of alarm or any kind of lights. I put my phone and all the devices on airplane mode as well, because you don't want to interrupt your sleep in that way with those electromagnetic fields. Also too, I recommend getting something or putting your phone on night mode, so that turns it this sort of amber orangey hue, and so that's like basically preventing that very bright blue light, that daylight light in your face at night. So I do that. You can go into the settings and do that, and then set it from like 7 p.m. onwards. And I use an app called Flux on my computer, and so that's the same thing. It sort of turns the hue of the computer like this pinkish orangey color, and so essentially you're not getting that blue light in your face all night long. So that's what I would say for melatonin production. Also, too, it's really important that guys understand that melatonin issues can affect sperm production, too. So if you're a guy or you're a girl who knows a guy, keep that in mind, too. So the guys, this is really important for you as well. Fertility is a 50-50 game, obviously, and studies show that infertility affects us pretty much split down the middle now. So guys need to be informed about that as well. Okay, let's see. What else? Let's go on to the next one. Does anyone have questions? Let's see. No. Okay. Anyways, if anyone has questions, let me know. So the next one that hold on. Oh, there we are. Okay. So the next one that I've had my own experience with, and this is why I wanted to write about it, is your oral health or the health of your mouth. This has been a big thing for me. I never had cavities. I never had any of these issues at all. And then about 3 years ago, I went to the dentist and he was like, oh, your gums are receding and you have pockets. And I was like, what? What does that all mean? And I spent a ridiculous amount of money, unfortunately, trying to fix all these problems with my dental health. And so what he was saying was that I had this like bacterial sort of overgrowth, or like the harmful bacteria in my mouth had sort of overgrown, and it was causing my gums to recede and all this other stuff. And so this is like a big problem. I've talked about it a lot now, and a lot of people actually experience this as well, especially women who who are pregnant, because progesterone plays a pretty big role in your gum health, and so high levels of progesterone can cause your gums to bleed more. So it's always really important for women who are pregnant to go to the dentist at least 3 or 4 times during their pregnancy, every couple of months, especially if you have a history of gum disease or tartar buildup or periodontal disease, that kind of thing. So the health of your mouth is really fascinating to me, because one of the studies I found, it showed that women who have gum disease take an average of 2 months longer to get pregnant. And of course, this doesn't just apply to someone who's trying to get pregnant or is trying to be more fertile. This applies to everybody, because fertility equals menstrual health at the end of the day. And if your menstrual health is in optimal order, then your fertility should be good too. So it all goes hand in hand. It's all connected at the end of the day. Like, all the hormones, they're all talking to each other. And so if one thing isn't working, then it's likely going to have a cascade effect on everything. So the health of your mouth is crucial. I also found what was so interesting, this whole process of how your mouth health affects your entire body and can affect even a fetus that's growing inside of you, which blew my mind. So tartar basically can turn into gingivitis if it's left too long, and then gingivitis can turn into periodontal disease, and that's where like your gums begin pulling away from your teeth. And so if you go to a dentist, they use this little this little stick thing, and they measure your gum pockets. So that's what was happening to me. So you really want your gum pockets to be like 1s and 2s, but mine's were like 3s and 4s. It was really bad. Anyway, so what happens is, well, for me, I went to a holistic dentist. I recommend them highly if you can find one. Highly recommend that. I did laser treatments on my gums to basically seal them back to my teeth, and I had to do a lot of things in terms of getting rid of that bacteria. But anyway, what ends up happening is that the bacteria in your mouth will seep through your gums into your bloodstream. And so these toxins have a pretty profound effect on the rest of your body. What they end up doing is causing this inflammatory response. So you end up with this almost autoimmune response just from tartar or gum disease. It's nuts. And so what then happens is this can lead to fertility issues and even miscarriage. I thought it was so fascinating. Like basically, it can target the fetus, potentially leading to premature labor and low birth weight babies. So this is a big deal. There's also a connection between periodontal disease and endometriosis. So for anyone who has endometriosis, think about what's going on with your gum and tooth health. And also too, what else was there? Yeah, so you guys, if you want to go on my blog, I have this whole thing on what I did with my teeth, but basically I got an electric toothbrush. I also have another one called a rotodent that gets in between the different grooves of my teeth. And then I do oil pulling, as well as I use this powder toothpaste. It doesn't have any of the chemicals, any of the harsh things that a lot of toothpaste have in it. And what else do? I don't floss anymore. I used to, but I found that really irritated my gums and caused more problems. So instead I use a water pick. So those are the kind of things I did to make changes. I also started taking vitamin D, the Thorne Research vitamin D. And I started using the constant trace minerals. I've used these in the past, but I started using more of those. So I'll put all the links in there for everyone when I'm done with all this. Okay, I see questions. Hang on a second. Let me see here. Okay. Yeah, Jamie. So you mentioned progesterone cream. So I was only saying that I'm a huge proponent of making sure that you are producing hormones on your own, that your body is producing hormones. And if you are taking a deeper look, which I know you are, at what's going on in your body, then you're going to be able to figure out why your body is either producing too much of one hormone or too little of another hormone. And so I think that it's great to be a little bit of an investigator into what's going on with your body. Change your diet, change your supplements, change your lifestyle, your stress response, all of these things before slathering yourself in hormones, in synthetic hormones. So that's my only issue with using something, not that progesterone cream is necessarily synthetic, but in just adding in hormones, I much prefer to figure out what the root cause is, address that, and then if it's still a problem, then look at hormone replacement therapy using bioidenticals. Okay, next question. I just realized my phone is totally dying. I might need to plug it in. Acne around the chin and jawline. I have PCOS, hypothalamic amenorrhea, and post-pill amenorrhea for 2 years. Could the flaring of acne be a sign my periods are returning? What else can I do to bring it back already? This is a long question. Fixed gut health and taking supplements. So yes, it could be a sign if you haven't experienced it. This is Vivian. So yes, if you haven't had any of this acne before, it could be a sign. I also say, I mean, every time I think of acne around the chin and jawline, I always think of, gut health and hormonal imbalances, as well as your liver, what's going on with your liver's ability to detoxify and remove harmful chemicals, toxins from your body. So I think that like the paleo, the gut health, taking correct supplements is a great place to start. I mean, if it's been 2 years, I would look into acupuncture if you haven't done that. Find an acupuncturist who's a fertility specialist. Maybe try castor oil packs. I have a blog post on my website about that. I have a handout for castor oil packs. I think that would be something as well. And there are a couple other things too for bringing on your period. I'll get to those, but you guys have to give me a second because I gotta plug in my phone. 1 second. Sorry. clearly not that prepared today. Let's see if this thing will. Oops. All right. Sorry, kids. All right. Okay. So yes, Vivian, I think that there are, like I said, there are a couple other things, and I was actually going to write a post about this, on different supplements and herbal remedies that you can try to bring on your period. So, but I do recommend, getting your hormones tested as well, seeing a skilled practitioner to help you do that, because it's really good to kind of figure out what your baseline is and what's going on. So yeah, that's what I'd recommend there. Sorry, I have like a lot of questions. Let's see, Layla. I'm trying to find good resources on treating endometriosis. Recommendations. Yeah, Layla. I have a really good friend, Melissa Turner. She is an endometriosis expert. She has lived with it herself and addressed it fully. She's incredible. So if you want to check out Melissa Turner, hang on a second, I'll tell you what her site is. Endo. Melissa is endoempowered.com. I don't know if you've heard of her, but she is incredible. So I'd highly recommend you check out Melissa. Shannon, how much flow would you consider too heavy? I know this is subjective, but after preventing pregnancy, I went on hormonal birth control to help with the flow of my periods. It did, but I found hormonal birth control adds to my blood pressure problems, and I'm back to the first 3 days being heavy. Wondering what I can do outside of hormonal BC. Oh, there's so much you can do. I mean, I literally bang this drum all the time, but I'm going to say this because I feel like I have to say it again. And of course, there's no judgment. I think everybody needs to do what's right for them. But if it's not working, then there's a reason for that. So hormonal birth control is literally just going to mask what your hormones are doing. Whatever hormonal imbalance that exists right now, all it's doing for you is masking that imbalance. So unfortunately, what ends up happening is if you get off of it, then the problems come back or they get worse, that kind of thing. So I'm a big fan of getting off of the hormonal birth control, and I'll talk about the other options for how to, track your cycle and all of that in a moment. But let's see. So I would say if your periods are heavy, the first thing to think about is your diet. What could be causing your period to be heavy? So I talk extensively about this in my Fix Your Period program and pretty much everything that I say and do and write on my blog. But that's really the foundation. So that's where you have to start. I don't know, again, like, I don't know, like where you are with your diet or what your stress is like, but all of these things contribute in a major way. And I just really think there's such an emotional connection too. If we're chronically stressed, if there is a lot of psychological stress in our lives, this can show up as heavy periods. It can, for some women, your period can disappear because of stress. For others, it can cause heavy periods. So a lot of the time, what I see is either a low thyroid function problem, so your thyroid is not functioning optimally, or you have an estrogen to progesterone imbalance where you have too much estrogen in relation to progesterone, and that's what's causing the heavier periods. So either of those two imbalances would be potentially the cause behind your heavy periods. So I really recommend, getting your hormones tested to see what's going on there. And then you can kind of make a decision based on the hormonal imbalance you have. But when it comes to something like estrogen dominance over progesterone, I'm a big proponent of figuring out ways to properly detox estrogen. So again, looking at your gut health, is it functioning optimally? What's happening with your liver? Do you need to support your liver detoxification better? I'll talk about that with supplements when I jump into that, actually, because the supplements that I recommend will really, really help that. Okay, low iron caused heavy periods for me for a while. Interesting, that's really good to know. Okay, so, all right, I'll keep going, guys. Anyways, I wanted to just share the final ones that mess with ovulation. So NSAIDs, which is non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs like Advil and Aleve, those can actually stop ovulation. If you're taking, you got to be taking a lot. So you got to be taking it every day consistently. And so be really, really cautious of this, because I think it's something like 90% of Americans, some crazy number of people are taking non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs on a daily basis. It's some huge amount of people. Anyway, it's a big problem for people if they are taking them every day. If you're taking it once a month or a couple times a month, it's not a huge deal. Just keep that in mind. And it will stop ovulation in some people, and there's science to back that. The other thing is that you can, once you stop, then it's gonna go back to functioning. Your fertility and your ovulation will go back to functioning the way they're supposed to. So it's not like a long-term thing necessarily. The other one I wanted to mention was BPA, which is bisphenol A. And so I call this thing the reproductive toxicant because technically it is. It's one of those chemicals that's in our environment and can totally mess with the hormonal messenger system in a really big way. There are like 91 studies basically on BPA, and 71 of those studies show an effect on our hormones in some way. So you would find BPA in things like receipts. So there's a coating on receipts now, so that's where you'd find BPA. So if someone wants you to take a receipt, tell them you don't want the receipt. In all kinds of hard plastics, think about, unfortunately, even your flip-flops can have BPA, which sucks because if you have sweaty feet, then that can be a problem because you'll absorb all of those toxins through the soles of your feet. Plastic bags, as well as like the lining in food cans. So think about cooking your own food rather than canned food. Even conventional dry cleaning and the restaurant to-go containers. So all of those contain BPA. And what's interesting is that there was a study done in 2010. It found that 95% of random urine samples urine samples, the ovarian follicular fluid of female participants had BPA in it, and so almost 100% of us. So that's a huge problem because BPA will actually inhibit ovarian follicle growth. So again, for people who maybe are dealing with infertility, this is something to think about. If you don't have a period, that's also potentially something to think about. What's your toxic load happening in your body right now? How's your body detoxing? So the other thing is that what it does is basically disrupting the estrogen pathway, and we don't want that. Anyway, so that's BPA. Also, too, I should say, it's been implicated in PCOS, endometrial disorders, implantation failure, miscarriage, preterm birth. So think about your interaction with plastics from here on out and those receipts. And then the last one is low thyroid function. And I know a lot of people already know this, but I really want to go into a little bit of hypothyroid and how our thyroid is connected to our menstrual cycle, because a lot of women come to me and they've been to their doctor. They're either dealing with, really severe period problems, or they've have unexplained infertility and their thyroid was never checked. Or if it was checked based on the conventional approach to medicine and test results. And unfortunately, conventional testing leaves a lot to be desired, in other words. So you really want to look at finding a functional medicine doctor to do the testing, or testing on your own even. There's some test options that you can do. I recommend some of them as well. I've talked about it on my blog and in my programs. But it's good to know, first of all, that, thyroid function can affect ovulation, your sex drive. It can cause painful periods, PMS symptoms. It can even cause excessive menstrual bleeding as well as amenorrhea. So there's like both ends of that spectrum. It's, so there's a big, it plays a really big role. I think that what's most important to know is that thyroid hormone helps FSH do its job. And so FSH is follicle stimulating hormone, comes from your brain, talks to your ovaries, tells your little follicles to get in gear. And what happens is it helps with not only follicle stimulating hormone doing its job, but it also helps to form the corpus luteum, which is that little follicle that the egg has come out of, and that's what produces progesterone for that second half of your cycle and will help to support a pregnancy for the first 3 months of your pregnancy. And the other thing is that we need adequate T3, which is thyroid hormone, the active thyroid hormone, for our bodies, for ovulation to occur. So what is also interesting too is that the luteal phase defect that many women experience, so this is when you have a short luteal phase, that second half of your cycle, and low progesterone can be improved with thyroid replacement therapy. So of course, again, I don't think that everybody needs thyroid hormone necessarily if they have a thyroid problem, but they need to look at what's going on with their diet and their lifestyle and the chemicals too, by the way, affects your thyroid immensely. So those are really important things to remember. Also too, what I think is really cool is that the rapidly dividing cells of your little embryo, if you were to get pregnant, need your body to be at a certain temperature. And so your thyroid is your thermostat. And if your thyroid isn't functioning properly, you tend to have a lower body temperature. So you need to have a certain temperature in order for an embryo to grow. And so that's why thyroid is linked so often, or low thyroid is linked so often with early miscarriage, because your thyroid needs to regulate your body temperature and have it at a certain temperature. So that's really, really important. And now I want to jump into the supplements, because these are actually 4 great supplements that will help a lot of what I've been talking about, in addition to diet as well. Okay, let me answer some questions really quickly. I have PCOS. Hi, Olivia. I have PCOS, and when I've had my hormones tested, only androstenedione is elevated. Your thoughts why only that one is elevated and how I could bring it down? Thanks, Nicole. Appreciate your knowledge and help. Awesome. Yeah, okay. So androstenedione, it's such a weird hormone because nobody really talks about it that often. And I will say, so I have seen that in one other case, and it was a really long time ago. I'm going to make a note of that, and I would like to write about it, because I think that it could be, it could be a couple of different things. Usually I find that when there's some sort of adrenal dysregulation. I don't know what's going on with your adrenals, or, like what's happening with your lifestyle, but it is really interesting to me that that's the only one that's elevated. Like I said, I only had one other case a really long time ago about that, and I'll answer that underneath the video when I'm done, because I kind of feel like I need to do a little research into why that would be the only one that's elevated. It could just be that that's the one hormone that elevates with your particular condition. So I'll get back to you on that one, Olivia, for sure. I'll answer that when I'm done here. Melissa, I've just stopped Ciplus. I don't know what that drug is. I'm assuming that maybe is a birth control pill. Let's see, this past month it's caused breakthrough, I assume bleeding. I'm still on Minerva, but moving over to, okay, I don't even know what these are, so you're gonna have to tell me. Actually just trying to get off the pill slowly, and a doctor said that Clarilla was more in tune with my own body than the previous pills I have been on. Hopefully only 2 months or so on that before off the pill completely. Have gotten supplements as you suggested on your blog to counteract anything. Okay, that's awesome, Melissa. So the thing is that like I said, I would love for you to just get off of the pill. I understand that, you need to do that within your own time, so that's fine. What I would say though is, okay, so what was the question? I don't actually know anything about those pills. I'm so sorry. I wish I knew more about them, but I don't. And, ultimately they're all the same. They're all just gonna block your endogenous production of hormones, and it's gonna cause, continue to cause problems for you if you're already experiencing problems. Okay, so Olivia, you meant it's the only androgen that's elevated. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, so I'll respond to your comment when we're done here, because I feel like that requires a little bit more research, and it's a little bit out of my knowledge base, because I don't have a lot of people, like I said before, who have dealt with high androstenedione. Okay, let's see, Jamie, I have Hashimoto's thyroiditis. I take tyrosine to regulate. What is the optimum T3 level? Optimum T3 level, that, let me check, hang on one second. I want to make sure I give you the correct one, Jamie, because it's like a very narrow range. Hold on a second. Thyroid. Yeah, so optimal T3, I think it's in the upper third of, yeah, upper third of the reference range, but it's anywhere from 3 to 4.5 picograms. So that's what you're looking for T3. Okay, let's see what's next. Okay, I don't have any other questions, so let's get back into what we were talking about. Okay, so let's go into the supplements really quickly. It's already 12:30. Wow. All right, so supplements. I am a huge fan of the B complex of vitamins. They do so much. It's unbelievable. And unfortunately, they're water soluble vitamins, so they don't stick around for a long period of time. So we're constantly having to replenish them. So I'm a big fan of taking the B complex. I have a couple here. Well, no, I just have one right now. But I take right now the B minus from Seeking Health. And then I take a folate and B12 sublingual from the same brand, Seeking Health. So that's what I'm doing personally right now. But I also really love the Thorne Research Basic B Complex, and I also like the Seeking Health B Complex Plus. So there's a plus and a minus. You can take the plus, and that has the folate and the B12 in it. I have an MTHFR mutation, so I can't take too much B12 or I will have major anxiety problems. And so that's why I think it's really important to pay attention to when you're taking B vitamins, in particular folate and B12, because so many people have this mutation. I've written really extensively about it on my blog, so if you guys want to check that out, you should definitely do that. But I want to say, like, the B complex of vitamins, they're amazing. Like, they do all kinds of stuff. Like, they help with heavy periods, they help with spotting or irregular bleeding, fibrocystic breasts, endometriosis, cramps, and PMS issues as well. So, big fan of that. And then in food, you want to get your vitamins from food, obviously. I love leafy green vegetables. I talk about those all the time ad nauseum, as well as let's see, like tuna, beef liver, salmon, chicken, chickpeas, potatoes. All of those have B vitamins in them. B6 is an interesting one, vitamin in the complex. Like, I really like B6 and recommend it sometimes on its own, because it really can help with ovulation, to help improve your ovulation and your fertility. So like I said, sometimes I recommend just like an extra dose of B6 on top of a B complex. You don't want to take more than, let's see, like, 100 milligrams a day of B6. So I recommend anywhere from like 20 to 60 milligrams a day, and you can get that separately. Seeking Health makes a B6, as well as Thorne Research. They do one as well. But I think that when it comes to B6 especially, it has been shown to lengthen a short luteal phase, which is really problematic for a lot of people. You want your luteal phase to be more than 10 days long, and if it's not, then you want to work to get it there. And so B6 is very, very helpful for doing that. It also can lower prolactin levels, and a lot of women have elevated prolactin levels, which causes amenorrhea or no period for more than 3 months at a time. And like I said, it's really great for PMS because B6 tends to raise dopamine and serotonin levels. So it's really, really helpful. So like I said, you can, on my blog, I talk about all of this as well. So you can find the dosages on there too, if you didn't take these down. And then the next one is selenium. So selenium is one of my favorite supplements now, one of my favorite recommendations. I don't recommend taking it for long periods of time, but it's so awesome because it is a powerful antioxidant, and it's basically what an antioxidant does is protect your body from inflammation and free radical damage, all those good things. What I think is really interesting about selenium is that because it's such a powerful antioxidant, it really is helpful in protecting your ovarian tissue, because ovarian tissue is actually one of the most sensitive in the body to inflammation. And so ovarian aging is really problematic for a lot of young women now. I see a lot of women with premature ovarian failure women who are in their like late 20s and even early 30s, this is happening too. And so much of this is linked to the psychological stress on our bodies, as well as our inability to just get the nutrients from the food that we are eating. So it's really important to think about all of those things on your health and fertility journey. Anyway, so the selenium's job is twofold. The first one is that it's one of those minerals that protects our thyroid. It comes back to the thyroid again because everything is connected. It's one big loop. From toxic heavy metals and from stress, from the effect of stress. And it also aids in the conversion of T4 to T3. So that's the active form of thyroid hormone. So that's like a really important part of the menstrual and fertility journey. And then it also helps to lower thyroid peroxidase, which is TPO. So those are the antibodies that your thyroid would make in the case of Hashimoto's. So selenium can be very, very helpful. And as I was saying before, your thyroid function is pretty critical to your menstrual and reproductive health. And in fact, low thyroid function even is connected to a short luteal phase. So that's something to think about too, as well as low progesterone. And then the second thing that I think is really interesting with selenium is that it has been found to be crucial to the development of healthy ovarian follicles. Again, those follicles are where your eggs come out of. So selenium is found in large quantities in healthy follicles. So it's really, really important to think about, okay, where am I getting my selenium from? Am I even getting selenium in my diet? Where does that even come from? Selenium comes from a couple of different things. Brazil nuts originally have been the highest source of selenium. Just depends where they come from. You want to make sure you're sourcing organic Brazil nuts, and anywhere from 3 to 5 of those a day can meet your selenium needs. About 200 micrograms a day is what I recommend for supplementation. I don't recommend supplementation for a long period of time, maybe 8 to 12 weeks max, because long-term selenium use can cause stomach issues, hair loss, fatigue, a whole bunch of things. So it's really important to cap the length of time that you supplement with it and really focus on getting it in your diet, because not only can you get it from Brazil nuts, but you can get it from a ton of different things like fish, shellfish, oysters, sardines, salmon, tuna, those kinds of things, as well as other animal proteins like liver and kidney, grass-fed beef, and lamb. So that's selenium. All right, guys, any questions? Let's see what's going on here. Jamie, is there any risk for having too much T3 in the body? Does it also affect ovulation? Yeah, it can potentially do that. It depends. I typically don't see too much T3. In fact, I don't know that I've seen that on a test result in a really long time. That would basically be the opposite of hypothyroidism. It would be hyperthyroidism. So yes, there is definitely a risk of that. And so that's a whole set of other symptoms in and of itself. And someone with Hashimoto's can actually sway back and forth between hypo and hyper. That's why it's so important to work with a trained doctor who knows exactly how to address Hashimoto's if that's what you've got. So I think that it's really important to make sure that if you have too much T3, to see a trained practitioner for that. All right, Melissa, what are your thoughts on Ferrous Forte as a supplement? Side note, I think due to the country I live, South Africa, maybe the reason you may not know those tablets or pills could be under another name. Yeah, let me know, Melissa, because I actually don't know that supplement. I don't know if anyone else does. But yeah, I've never heard of it before. I'm assuming it's an iron supplement of some kind. You can answer the question. Anyways, I'll jump into the rest of the things that I wanted to share really quickly. Oh yeah, so the selenium that I like too is life extension selenium, super selenium, because it has the different types of selenium in it that total out to 200 micrograms. So yeah, that's the one I prefer. The next one is magnesium. So this is supplement number 3. Magnesium is huge. I talk about magnesium a lot too. I really love it. I swear I don't know what I would do without magnesium in my life for so many reasons. But it is like, it's like the woman's mineral. That's basically what I call it. And I recommend for a bunch of different things. Like, first of all, to help with sleep. So it's very useful in being that calming, natural Valium kind of mineral, because it helps you calm down. It relieves anxiety and overwhelm and all of those feelings that come up for so many of us on a daily basis. And it really helps at night to help you wind down and sleep. So yeah, I know. I love magnesium too, Nicole. It's a good one. It's a really good one. I recommend it to everybody. I feel like, when we're stressed, it basically can be released from our bodies in our urine a lot faster. So we have to replenish it. And magnesium is very deficient in our diets now. So that's why I do recommend the supplement for women, because it's incredibly helpful for a lot of people, because it actually plays a role in about 300 different processes in your body. So magnesium is really interesting because there is a study that I discovered that it's depleted by cyclical changes in female sex hormones during the luteal phase, which leads to PMS symptoms like migraines, bloating, things like that. And I'm a big fan of taking magnesium, especially in that second half of your cycle. I love Natural Calm. I take that pretty much every day in the second half of my cycle, as well as, and so that's magnesium citrate, by the way. So that can cause loose bowels for some people, just so you know. So don't take more than the recommended dosage on the container. It's about 300 milligrams or so. And then the other type of magnesium is magnesium glycinate, which I also recommend. So you take either or, but magnesium glycinate is great for anyone who's super sensitive to magnesium because it absorbs a lot better and does not cause loose bowels or diarrhea. Anyways, yeah, so the other thing that I found that was interesting was that magnesium has such a big impact on PMS symptoms that there was even a study done to find out if magnesium deficiency is a cause of PMS. So, yeah, PMS sufferers have a lot lower magnesium levels, which is very, very crucial for all of us PMS sufferers. Anyways, so like I said, insulin-resistant people, PCOS girls, magnesium is huge. It helps to sensitize your body to insulin. So it's really, really helpful for someone who's dealing with PCOS or insulin resistance, and low-grade inflammation as well. So it's going to help any kind of low-grade inflammatory response that's happening in your body. All right, so I covered that. So I said magnesium glycinate and Natural Calm. The magnesium glycinate that I like is, where is it? Oh yeah, pure encapsulation. So that's the one that I have used and recommended in the past. And then, okay, so those are my 3 supplements that I really like. And then the 4th one is vitamin D. And vitamin D is tough because I obviously believe that we should go out in the sun for 20 to 30 minutes a day. I know it seems crazy these days, but really, I think we can all do that, especially in the summertime. I mean, there's really no excuse. And I know that there's a sunblock thing for a lot of people, but I recommend 20 to 30 minutes in the sun without any sunblock, because sunblock blocks almost all of the sun exposure, or the vitamin D production ability of your body. So I really recommend not using sunblock. I actually think, I don't even know. I mean, I feel like people have written about this before, but I feel like it's contributing to our vitamin D epidemic to a degree. But what I like about vitamin D is that it really is, it's like magnesium in a way that it affects so many different processes in our body, from everything, from autoimmune disease to fertility to everything, like all the things, cancer, all of it. So there were some studies that I found that I thought were really interesting. There was a study done on women who are dealing with infertility, and only 7% of those participants had normal vitamin D levels. That's insane. So it really is a huge part of your menstrual and reproductive function. PCOS women as well, vitamin D deficiency is definitely linked to that condition. So you really want to make sure that you're getting tested for it. And then PMS symptoms as well. Calcium, magnesium, vitamin D. Huge role in addressing or preventing PMS symptoms, like all the emotional stuff, anxiety, irritability, breakdowns, all the things. Anyway, so yeah, like I was saying before, let's see here, what was I wanted to say? Oh yeah, sun exposure. So sun exposure, 20 to 30 minutes a day. You can do it anytime between 10 and 5 p.m. in the summer. In the Northern Hemisphere, we don't really, not the Northern Hemisphere, sorry, in the North, like anywhere for above like North Carolina, we don't really get great sun exposure in the winter. So I always recommend testing first. So that's the very first thing you want to do. and don't believe your doctor if your test result says that you're like a 29 and you're fine, because you're not. Anything under 50, as far as I'm concerned, is considered deficient. So you want your levels to be anywhere around 50 to 70. And for some people who have autoimmune diseases or some other condition, they might even need to be higher than 70. So just, take that into consideration when you go and get tested. I don't recommend supplementing if you're not deficient, so make sure you get tested to find out. And also just be in the sun, go into the sun. I mean, we need to be outside because we spend way too much time indoors. So that's the first thing about getting sun exposure and then getting tested. Also, let's see here. So supplementation, I recommend a 2000 IU a day for as a maintenance dose. And you can do the vitamin D council actually is what the recommendation that I make to clients within my group programs, because obviously I'm not sure, who all is getting tested and what they're doing. So the vitamin D council says that you should take 1000 IU a day for every 25 pounds of body weight. And this again is if you're deficient, and you only know that if you get tested. So for someone who weighs 125 pounds, that's about 5000 IU a day. And so that's around what I take in the wintertime, because I tend to fall pretty low. Years ago, I tested and I was at like 21. It was really bad. And I felt horrible. I don't even know how I was surviving. So I'd recommend that. I also like that the Thorne Research, this one that I showed you guys earlier, this one, it's got vitamin D K2 in it. And so the extra K2 can actually prevent the vitamin D toxicity. So that's an important component of taking vitamin D. And then let's see, it's rare, but it can happen. So it's important to make sure that you have a supplement that has K2 in it as well. I really like this one. This is the only one that I've found personally that has the K2 and it's a liquid. So I prefer this one. I also love cod liver oil. It's full of vitamin D and vitamin A and all of these different fabulous fertility vitamins and nutrients. So Rosita Real Foods, that's the one that I use. It's a cod liver oil, cold pressed cod liver oil, and it's so gross tasting, but it's so worth it. I feel amazing when I take it. So yeah, that's vitamin D. Questions, let's see. I bought the magnesium foot cream you recommended. It's so good, thank you. Oh, that's so awesome, Holly. I'm so glad you did. I know, I use that stuff every night. It's fabulous. Okay, Megan, I obtained hormonal acne at age 25, literally came out of nowhere, so I've been on the pill since then. I'm 28, which cleared my skin like it was before. What could someone do to avoid acne when coming off the pill? I would like to quit putting all these toxins in my body, but I'm afraid my skin will freak out again in those painful bumps. Yeah, totally a huge fear. I get it completely. So many women deal with this. It's not even funny. I have like 2 or 3 blog posts about coming off of the pill and what you can do in terms of food and lifestyle and supplementation to support your liver function and your gut health. And those will be really, really helpful, I think, to you. So if you just go to my blog, it's NicoleJardim.com /blog and search birth control pill. You'll find all of the articles right there, and I give recommendations. Okay, I think we're like almost at time. All right, last things. Let's see. I know I'm supposed to talk about vitex really quickly. Somebody asked a question about vitex, and I wanted to answer it. Let's see here. She said, all right, can you address when to stop vitex or how to know if it's working? I started it this cycle and had mid-cycle spotting for the first time ever, which concerns me. According to my chart, my ovulation was 5 days sooner, but my temperatures are just above the cover line. If vitex is helping my progesterone, shouldn't my temps be higher? Well, okay, so the first thing to say, this is from Jillian. So Jillian, if you watch this in the end, I'm talking to you. You want to take vitex for at least 3 to 6 months to see if there is any changes. And so it's really great, first of all, that you're paying attention to all of these signs and symptoms. And I think you should definitely keep doing that. The mid-cycle spotting actually isn't a big deal if it's ovulation spotting. If you're spotting around the time of ovulation, then that is a sign that you're ovulating. So it's like pinky kind of spotting is what you might see over a day or two. maybe a little bit longer sometimes for some people, maybe a little shorter. But that is definitely an ovulatory sign. So that's not necessarily a bad thing. I would say that you'll definitely know, like it might not have raised your progesterone as yet. It might still be starting to work on your body. I would definitely give it at least 3 months to see if it works. Like 3 to 4 months is really the time frame in which I think Vitex works. If you're not seeing any changes or you see side effects from it, then I would recommend coming off of it, and because Vitex clearly isn't for you. So, and it's not for a lot of people, by the way. I've had a lot of clients, myself included, have major issues with it, where it totally threw off my period. It was crazy. I had like really long cycles. I've never had that in my life, and like emotional stuff as well. I had a lot of clients actually mention that to me. They talked about like how it impacted their emotional health. One of my friends, I wrote a blog post about this, and she said that she felt super depressed, really tired right before she got her period, like super tired, and just was like literally having a mini depression every month. So if you're experiencing anything like that, then over the next couple of months, then I highly recommend getting off of it. Okay. So that's Vitex. Oh yeah, when to know to get off. Like I said, 3 to 4 months, or if you're experiencing any kind of side effects or symptoms. I think that it's also important to understand with Vitex that it isn't for everyone. I recommend people use it for PMS symptoms. So things like breast pain and the emotional things like irritability, and things like that, as well as acne, even bloating, those kinds of PMS symptoms, physical and emotional, irregular periods, but not right after you come off of the pill. Like I would wait 3 months after coming off the pill at least to start to rebuild your body, and then try Vitex out, just because it can just further exacerbate issues. I don't really recommend it with PCOS because Vitex can cause LH, that luteinizing hormone, to go up, and that's often elevated already with women who have PCOS, so I don't necessarily recommend it for someone who has that condition. And then of course raising your progesterone levels, lengthening your luteal phase, it's great for all of those things. So again, like you got to remember, this is your body. You've got to pay attention to how your body's communicating to you. I love the concept of body literacy. I know Holly knows all about this. She talks about it a lot, and I'm just a big fan of like really paying attention to signs and symptoms that your body is sharing with you, and that's her way of communicating. And if your body is telling you certain things, then it's really important to start listening to those things. If something doesn't feel right in your gut, then trust that. Okay, what else were we going to talk about? I'm just trying to like look at all the different windows that I have open here. Oh yes, okay, my technology. So excited to talk about this. It's going to be so fun. Okay, so I want to start with the daisy. I wrote a blog post on Daisy a couple of months ago, and I love this little thing. It's the coolest thing ever. So for anyone who doesn't know, it is a fertility monitor. It's like a cycle tracker. It's everything all built into one little tiny device. And what it does is it's a thermometer. So it takes your temperature every single morning, that little tip right there. And so every morning I take my temperature on Daisy. I plug it into my phone using my handy little cable. And I see what my temperature is because I obviously track my temperatures as well as cervical fluid and different signs and symptoms of my menstrual cycle. And so in the app, you'll see different days. I wish I could pull up my app, but I can't because I'm talking to you on my phone. And I apologize for the constant sirens. It's New York City. Anyway, so on your phone, on this app, you will see a series of either green, red, or orange days. And so while Daisy is learning your cycle, you're going to get a lot of orange days. And then you'll start to get red days, which are those days that you are considered fertile, and then green days for the days that you can have unprotected sex and you're considered infertile. And I have found it for so many of the people in my life and clients, they find it really, really useful for when they've either just come off the pill or they're not ready to start tracking their cycle and using the fertility awareness method. right away because it's very overwhelming for a lot of people who've never paid attention to their cycle in their entire like 20 or 30 something years of life. And so I think it's really, really awesome for that. Like I said, it's been really interesting because it syncs up almost completely to my fertility awareness charts as well. So I'm a big fan of it. And, like I said, it's one little computer, right? So it uses thousands of women's cycles, and they've created an algorithm in order to help you determine what your cycle pattern is. So like I said, highly recommend this. I wrote an amazing blog post about it. It has all the details in there. I interviewed Holly, who I think you're on here right now. And she broke down a lot of the common questions that women have about it and how accurate it is, all of that kind of thing. So it's definitely on my blog. It is listed under Daisy, Daysy. So yes, check that out. So this is my one favorite. And then I've also been I'm a crazy person. I use like 7 different apps. It's hysterical. So I've also been using the Wink by Kindara. So Kindara is another app that I've been using for, gosh, it's like 5 years now, I think, actually. So Kindara, it does this little thing, talks to you, and then you use the thermometer and take your temperature. And so this obviously it's different to Daisy in that Daisy is, it's a computer. So it's going to tell you when you're fertile and when you're not fertile. Kindara is just giving you your basal body temperature. So that's your temperature upon awakening, first thing in the morning. And Kindara is the app that this syncs by Bluetooth. So it puts the temperature into your app, and then you can determine your fertility based on your temperatures or as well as your cervical fluid. So I track both. And so for anyone who doesn't know, your cervical fluid changes pretty significantly throughout your cycle, depending on the type of hormones that are prevalent at that time in your cycle. So as you're approaching ovulation, it gets wetter, it gets more egg white-like, more stretchy, more slippery, and then after ovulation, it either dries up or gets sticky, and then kind of stays that way or dries up completely until your next period. So that's kind of the gist of it, and so you're tracking that in addition to your basal temperature. And I'm going to write about the Wink as well and show you guys my charts too, so that people can see how I do all that. So anyways, yeah, these are my two faves right now. And I highly recommend both of them depending on, where you're at and what your circumstances are. Like I said so many times before, I'm a big fan of just getting off of hormonal birth control, especially if you're experiencing symptoms. So, one of these might be a good solution for you. Okay. Any other questions, ladies? Let's see. Oh, Jamie, let's see here. If we're going to take Vitex, should we only be taking it during the second half of our cycle? No. Hold on. What did I recommend here? I think I recommended every single day. Did I? Yeah. In the morning on an empty stomach throughout your cycle, and then stopping on days that you have your period. So that's what I recommend, Jamie. So not just the second half of your cycle. Every day except for your period days. And in the morning. Okay. So if you guys have any other questions, let me know. Happy to chat and answer questions. The last thing I wanted to share with y'all really quickly was this healthy living bundle. So this company approached me a couple of months ago, and they asked me to contribute my Fix Your Blood Sugar protocol to this amazing bundle. And I've been checking out the resources in this thing, and it's nuts. I mean, it's like $2,500 worth of e-courses and e-books and all kinds of things, everything in this bundle, and it's for $30. So it's going on only until Monday, but I have been having so much fun because there's like tons of recipe books, lots of paleo awesome recipes, vegan, vegetarian ones as well. Lots of natural living. Actually, some of the girls you guys were talking about acne. There are literally 7 to 10 resources in this thing on natural skincare and addressing acne issues and skin blemishes. So that I thought was really cool. what else is in here? Oh yeah, all kinds of exercise things, getting the toxins out, natural, like gardening, if anybody's into gardening, as well as like the women's health stuff. So my Fix Your Blood Sugar protocol is in there, as well as my friend Bridget Danner, her Perfect Periods program is in there. There are a couple other resources for women's health as well that I think you guys might really enjoy. So I'll put the link in here once I'm done with this whatever I'm doing here, this Facebook Live, and you guys can check that out too. So yeah, anyways, I don't really have anything else. I feel like I've covered everything. Let me just look and see if I have any other questions. I don't think I do. Does anybody else have anything that they want to ask? Otherwise, I think I'll jump off because it's already 1 o'clock. Oh my God, that went by so fast. Holy cow. I hope this was really helpful for you guys. I love doing this stuff. I love talking about all of this, as you can imagine. And I really like answering everyone's questions. Oh yeah, you know what? I did see another question that came in. Somebody was asking about vitamins to making them tired or drowsy. Oh, Julie, yeah. I don't know about that. It depends on the quality of the vitamins. I'm a big believer in quality, expensive vitamins because they work and they are, they have third-party regulation and testing and things like that. So I really recommend that you try a different vitamin, for instance, if you feel like this particular one isn't working for you or making you drowsy. Or you said also too, you didn't take it some days and you noticed that you didn't have drowsiness, so it's likely is that vitamin. So it could be something that you're maybe allergic to or something that doesn't agree with your body in the ingredients in that particular vitamin. So yeah, maybe consider trying a different one. Okay, awesome. Thanks, guys. I love you guys so much. This is amazing. Thank you so much. I'm so glad all of you are here. This is so great. I'm going to obviously be back again at some point soon. I'm going to have to figure out a schedule and make this happen as often as possible. So yes, if no one has any other questions, then I'm going to sign off and I will talk to everyone soon. Bye for now.